Hello and welcome to the first in my masterclass videos on RingsFX. In this video I aim to go over all the key functionality and explain the differences between the original Mutable Instruments hardware and this software implementation. Now, as you can see, I'm running the RingsFX in standalone mode, and at the bottom of the screen you'll notice three additional icons that don't appear when it's loaded as a plugin. They allow us to do things like display the pop-up keyboard, connect to Bluetooth and other MIDI devices, and also be able to share presets and preset banks to your PC or Mac. So just to clarify, these are options available only in standalone mode, but I want you to know that they're here. I'm not going to discuss them in detail in this video. Now, I want to start off this video by giving you a brief overview and the differences between RingsFX and the original module. RingsFX is actually based on a Mutable Instruments Eurorack module, as you can see up in the top right corner, that had a number of various synthesis modes that have been laid out now in RingsFX as this toolbar with 7 different synthesis modes. Now, starting from the left here, we have an option for modal synthesis. Then we have an option for sympathetic strings, which is great for sitar type instruments. Then we have a string module, which can create string sounds. An FM module, which can, it's a 2-operator FM module. We have a form of sympathetic strings that allows us to do Western chords. Then we have a string module with an attached reverb, which is very nice. And finally we have what was the Easter egg on the original module. I've called it synthesizer. Now, with the original Rings being a Eurorack module, it didn't support what we call true polyphony, but instead had 3 distinct polyphony modes, starting with mono, which was a pure monophonic mode, so each note you pressed would start a new note. The duo mode would allow the previous note to ring out, so you could hear 2 notes at once. And the quadraphonic mode built on that and allowed 3 notes to ring out when you played a 4th. Now, this is great for the Eurorack module, and for compatibility I've kept that as is, but I've added a 4th mode called poly mode, which allows us to play true polyphonic multi-note chords. Now, 2 other things that are new and didn't exist on the original Rings are the velocity sensitivity, which we can enable here, and also the ADSR. Now, the original never had any concept of ADSR. So if you want to emulate the original module, you can turn these features off. So enough talking, let's listen to some of these synthesis modes in action. Now, each of these 7 synthesis modes are controlled by 4 knobs. And if we select the Info tab, when we change synthesis mode, we can see what these knobs actually do and what they change. So the 4 most important knobs for manipulating your sound are brightness, damping, structure and position. And if I switch between the various synthesis modes, you can see in the Info tab what each of these modes do and how these 4 knobs affect the sound that you're trying to create. So let's start by having a listen to the modal mode. So as you can hear there, the brightness knob just affects the cutoff frequency of the sound. The damping in all these modes affects how long the sound rings out. The structure knob alters the harmonic content, and the position controls where the string or object is struck or excited or plucked. So modal mode is a very flexible and exciting mode that can produce any number of different types of sounds. So let's move on to sympathetic mode. And just as before, the brightness knob controls the amount of frequency range within the sound, and the damping controls how long the sound sustains or rings out. The structure knob controls how one string affects the resonance of another. You can see here we can select chord types, and you can hear that as I manipulate the structure knob. Now let's move to string mode. Now in the case of strings, the position knob is controlling where we strike the string. Now the structure knob, as usual, controls the harmonic structure. Unlike many of these synthesis modes, if you push the structure too high, we get mass dispersion leading to these bell-like tones. So let's take a look at the 2-operator FM mode. And as you can hear, this FM mode is great for kind of synthetic bass and any kind of bass type tones. Now chords mode is the equivalent of sympathetic mode, but playing Western chords, and we can hear that in this patch. Since the structure can be used to bring in different types of Western chords, you can get some great drones out of this. Have a listen. And if I manipulate the structure, I can change chord. And every now and again when I hit a specific note, you can hear the equivalent resonating note ring out, almost like a bit of feedback. So let's turn our attention to the next mode, which is string verb, and this is a special case version of string but with a specially tuned reverb. let's introduce a little white noise into the mix. And finally we have the synthesizer mode, which is great for organ type sounds. And here's an example with the pulse sequencer driving this mode. So I hope you agree there's 7 modes there which are really capable of creating a wide variety of sound while manipulating only 4 knobs. So now you've seen just how easy it is to create your own sounds. I want to go over what it takes to save those sounds as presets and how to be able to load the default presets that come with Rings. So tapping the preset button opens the preset manager. Inside the preset manager you'll see a bunch of banks on the left, and groups in the middle, and actual presets on the right. So currently we're in the default bank, and I'm clicking on individual groups. Those groups contain different category of instrument. Now you can't save presets to the default bank, but you can save them to the user bank. Now there's already a default group created for you. And if I wanted, I can hit the save button now and save my current preset in this default group folder. So pressing the save button shows this naming dialog, so I can give it any name I wish. And once done, hit the save button and you'll see the save preset appear in that right box, and it's currently highlighted. Now if I want to create my own bank and organize my presets into my own groups and categories, I can do that by creating a bank. And then within that bank I can create further categories. In this case I'm going to create a bass category. And then I can save my preset, my current settings, to a preset in that bass category. And again, once you press the save button, it will appear in the preset list. Now you'll notice 3 buttons above each list, and if I want to rename this preset, I press the rename button and change the name, save the changes, and you'll see that that has been renamed. Again, I can hit the delete button to delete the preset. Now if we return to the default bank and select one of the categories in the group column, we can then click on any of the presets within there and we can audition them. Now if we click on the preset button again, it will close the preset manager. But if we long press the preset button, it won't open the preset manager, it opens a search. And we can type the name or part name of any preset we want to search for. And from here we can select them and audition without actually closing this list, which is great because that means we can audition different presets and only press the cancel button when we found a preset that we like. Now if we return to the program manager by tapping on the preset button, there may be times when you find a preset and you think, I like this preset, I want to make it a favourite. And to do that we first tap on the preset to load it, and if we like it, simply double tap it. Now when you do that, a little star will appear next to the name, to the right of the name. And if I just go into, say, the strings category and just do one more, and then I exit the program manager by clicking the preset manager again. When I hit this favorites button, which is to the right of the preset manager, I have a little pop-up menu which contains all my favorite presets. Now, a lot of the complexity behind RingsFX is hidden behind what we call the tab bar. So let's zoom in and take a look at the tab bar. Now, I want you to notice that under each of the titles on the tab bar there is a number of dots that appear. On the LFO tab and the FEG tab there's only one dot. But as we move across past the matrix to the exciter, notice that there's two dots on this page. And since the second dot is lit, we are on the second page of the exciter tab. Now, tapping on the exciter tab will change between pages, and the active page will always be the boldest dot. The global FX tab also has two dots, and so tapping on the tab header will change between the two pages of effects. Now, I'm going to go through and explain every single tab, but not all in this video. For now, I just want to focus on the FEG tab because this is specific to what I want to talk about next, which is damping versus EG envelopes. So listen carefully to this sound that I've got here, and notice the damping is turned up full. So despite me having the damping up full, the notes are dying off very quickly. And the reason for this is we have an ADSR envelope set. Now, the original Rings didn't have any concept of ADSR envelopes. It simply used the damping to determine how long a sound would play. But when we're in true polyphony mode, we need something to encapsulate all the instances into one envelope. Now, if I turn off ADSR mode, take a listen. Now you can hear those notes can drone on forever, and the only way to stop them is to reduce the damping. So it's really the ADSR that we've got running over the top of Rings, which is creating the early damping. Now I'm going to enable the ADSR again and click on the FEG tab. Now this reveals one of 4 fluid envelope generators, and we're currently looking at envelope generator 1, which is basically the ADSR envelope. Now if I press the default button to the right here, you'll see that we get a different shape envelope with practically no attack. But we can quickly grab node 1 and just drag that out to add an attack to our sound. Now when I dragged and released node 1, it reconstructs the waveform shape so that everything fits to screen. You'll notice though that the actual wavelength or length of the envelope has been increased, and we can increase that even further by changing it here. I'm changing that by tapping and dragging inside the envelope length button. Now we're free to drag nodes anywhere we want to create the envelope shape that we require. We can also double tap anywhere to add a node. Now you'll notice there that the loop points changed when I added that node. Now you can tap, hold and drag the start and end loop points to encompass any area of the envelope you wish. If I turn off the envelope here, you'll see that the envelope markers disappear. And if I play a note, the sound will last as long as the envelope length that's specified here. But when loop mode is enabled, while you hold a key, it will sit and cycle between the start and end loop points, and will only do the release cycle when you lift a finger. Now you're free to add extra nodes anywhere you want, including inside the loop zone. So if I have something like this, which has a dip in the middle, and hold a note, hopefully we'll hear that. Now let's accentuate that by making it even steeper. Now if we enable the ping pong, when play gets to the end of that loop zone, it reverses and starts playing backwards till it's the beginning of the zone and then starts playing forwards again. Now at any time we can revert to one of the 3 default settings which you can find at the end of the FEG lane here, using the default, standard and slow buttons. Now you may have noticed that between the nodes 0 and 1 and 3 and 4 we have curves, and if we tap, hold and drag up and down between the 2 nodes, we can add a bend to that particular length in the envelope. And as we've discovered, you can double tap to add a node, but you can also double tap to remove a node. Now let's take an in-depth look on how to use the exciter source. Now this can be used in many different ways, but I want to show you a preset and I want you to listen to it before I adjust anything. Now notice I'm still holding that C key and the sound is naturally dying off because the exciter's got no more energy, and it can only go so far even with the damping up. So this bar here is the exciter source and it's currently switched off. And I'm going to turn that on to noise and listen to the difference. So notice now that the notes sustain indefinitely, and that's because we're pumping additional white noise into the mix, and the exciter level controls the amount of white noise we're pushing. Now if I set FEG1 to default so it has little or no attack, have a listen. Now hopefully you noticed there the additional white noise was fading in, and that's because FEG2 has an attack on it, and we can make that more pronounced by stretching out node 1. So by default FEG2 applies to the noise input. So now we know what the noise exciter source is and how to use it. Let's take a look at the input, because this is very interesting. Now in this example I've got a copy of AUM with a file player loaded as an instrument, and a copy of RingsFX loaded as an effect on top of that file player. And if we play back, you'll hear that we have a simple drum beat there, which I'm passing through rings. Now if I engage RingsFX, everything goes quiet. But we can use this output mix knob down here in the Rings interface to fade between the original drum beat and the output from Rings. So I'm going to pan the output mix all the way to the left so we can't hear the drum beat. And I'm going to go to the preset manager, and in this external input section I'm going to load one of the presets. And all these presets are for use with this input mode. And please notice that when we select one of these special presets, input exciter source is selected. So now let's play a chord on the MIDI keyboard. So let's try a different preset and see what difference that makes. So this preset has the output mix turned up, so we're getting a mixture of both the drum beat and rings. And we can sit there and tweak that to sound a little bit better. So I think you get the idea. It's great for adding kind of backing to drum tracks. You could also use it for backing on vocals as well, and have a kind of a vocoder type back in there and get the mix, output mix, to get the right mix of original voice versus RingsFX. So I think that's just about it for this masterclass video, but we've got plenty more to come in the next one, where we'll be discussing some more advanced features. Don't forget to thumb up the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.